Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today it's going to be a pretty interesting one. It's in between technology and magic, more or less, but it is a pretty good love story at the end. So if you guys like it, don't be shy. Just comment down below or like, subscribe. Either way, thanks for watching and have a good one.
The inky blackness of hyperspace was a familiar friend, a rippling tapestry of impossibility that Luke had come to know better than any terrestrial landscape. For 3 centuries, humanity had ventured into the cosmos, spreading like dandelion seeds on a solar wind, and Luke, a solitary nomad, was one of its furthest flung tendrils. His ship, the Wanderer, was a testament to human ingenuity and his own stubborn independence, a vessel patched and repatched, humming with a life of its own. Its hull, a patchwork quilt of salvaged alloys and hastily applied thermal shielding, bore the scars of 1,000 minor meteoroid impacts and a few hair-raising skirmishes with opportunistic space pirates. The interior, though utilitarian, was imbued with Luke's personality: a worn leather piloting chair, a holographic display unit flickering with star charts he'd personally cataloged, and a shelf of well-loved data crystals containing ancient Earth literature and folk music. But tonight, the hum was off. A discordant whine vibrated through the deck plates, a high-pitched keening that gnawed at the edges of his peace. The comforting cerulean glow of the hyperspace tunnel began to flicker, sputtering like a dying flame, casting erratic shadows that danced across the control panel. Luke, ever vigilant, a man whose life depended on anticipating the universe's next capricious whim, was already at the diagnostics console. His brow, usually relaxed in the rhythmic trance of hyperspace travel, was now furrowed in a deep V of concentration. "Not now, you old rust bucket," he muttered, his voice a low rumble devoid of panic but laced with a hint of exasperation. He tapped a recalcitrant screen, its surface stubbornly displaying a cascade of crimson error messages. "We're almost to the Xylos Nebula. Just a little longer, boy. Just a little longer." The ship, however, had other plans. With a sound like tearing fabric, a violent rending of reality itself, the blue tunnel imploded, replaced by a blinding, retina-searing flash of white. The gut-wrenching lurch of the emergency reversion slammed Luke hard against his console, then threw him from his seat, sending him sprawling across the deck. He hit the opposite wall with a grunt, the impact jarring his teeth. Alarms blared a chaotic symphony of reds and yellows, a frantic, shrill protest against the sudden, brutal return to real space. Red lights pulsed, illuminating the frantic dance of falling debris and sparking conduits. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burning insulation. He scrambled back to the controls, his hands flying across the console, every movement an instinctive dance honed by years of improvisation and crisis. "Damage report," he barked into the comm, though he knew there was no one to answer, only the static hiss of a dead channel. "FTL drive offline. Impulse engines failing. Life support fluctuating. Brace for impact, you old girl." The Wanderer was plummeting, a metallic meteor hurtling towards an unknown world, a colossal green-blue marble rapidly expanding in the viewport. Through the shattered, spider-webbed viewport, a verdant green orb grew rapidly, veined with rivers of silver that were clearly vast waterways, and swirled with clouds of pristine white, like brushstrokes on an artist's canvas. It was beautiful, terrifyingly so, a paradox of serene majesty and impending doom. He fought for control, every instinct honed by years of solitary travel screaming at him to survive. He wrestled the ship into a semblance of an atmospheric entry, the hull groaning under the immense G-forces, a symphony of tortured metal and stressed plating. Fire licked at the wings, bright orange tendrils against the deepening twilight of the alien sky, and the air inside grew thick with smoke and the metallic tang of ozone. The cabin temperature spiked, making his skin prickle with sweat. He braced himself, pulling the emergency landing levers with a desperate strength, hopping against hope that the Wanderer had one last miracle left in her. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable. The impact was bone-jarring, a screech of tortured metal, a final, deafening explosion of collapsing bulkheads, and the shattering of everything he had known. Darkness. a profound, echoing silence that followed the chaos. Luke awoke to the scent of damp earth and exotic blossoms, a rich, heady perfume that was both alien and strangely comforting. His head throbbed, a dull, insistent ache behind his eyes, and every muscle in his body protested with a sharp, fiery pain. He lay amidst the twisted wreckage of his cockpit, a grotesque metal cocoon, half buried in soft, rich soil. Groaning, he pushed himself up, his body screaming in protest, his eyes blinking against the dappled sunlight filtering through a canopy of alien foliage. Above him, gigantic, fern-like fronds unfurled in spirals, catching the light in a kaleidoscope of greens and purples. The Wanderer was a broken shell, a monument to a journey ended, half submerged in the soil of a lush, vibrant jungle. A mournful plume of smoke still curled lazily into the alien sky from its ruptured power core. He stumbled out, his legs wobbly, surveying the damage with a growing sense of despair. The ship was utterly ruined, its FTL core a charred husk, its communications array snapped like a twig, a useless antenna reaching for stars that felt impossibly distant. He was stranded, truly alone, on a world that was as alien as it was breathtaking. Gigantic trees with iridescent leaves towered above him, their branches laden with fruits in hues he'd never seen, brilliant oranges, shimmering blues, and deep, velvety purples. Strange, melodious calls echoed through the forest, a symphony of unseen inhabitants, creatures that chirped, trilled, and roared in a language utterly foreign. The air itself seemed to hum with life. Days bled into weeks. Luke, a testament to humanity's stubborn resilience, salvaged what he could from the Wanderer: a multi-tool, a few emergency rations, a broken data pad with flickering schematics, and the battered shell of his favorite mug. He built a makeshift shelter near a clear, bubbling stream, the sound of the flowing water a small comfort in his profound solitude. It was a crude lean-to of interwoven branches and large, waterproof leaves, offering meager protection against the occasional torrential downpours. He learned to identify edible plants, carefully observing which fruits the local, small, furry creatures consumed, wary of the vibrant colors that often signaled danger in the wild. He learned to track the local fauna, a startling array of creatures that ranged from six-legged grazers with gentle, wide eyes to agile winged predators that swooped through the canopy with silent grace. He was a survivor, a testament to humanity's enduring spirit, but a deep, gnawing loneliness began to settle in his chest. The vastness of space, once a thrilling frontier, now felt like an impenetrable, mocking wall, separating him from everything he knew. He spoke to himself sometimes, just to hear a human voice, the words echoing hollowly in the alien wilderness. One evening, as the twin moons of this world, one a stark white and the other a bruised violet, cast long, silver shadows through the jungle, Luke was fishing in the stream. His improvised spear, tipped with a sharpened shard of hull plating, was poised. A sudden rustling in the undergrowth, unusually close, made him freeze, every muscle tensing. He grabbed the makeshift spear, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall and graceful, unlike anything he had ever seen, a being woven from the very magic of this alien world. She was humanoid, yet exquisitely alien. Her skin was the color of polished jade, smooth and luminous, catching the moonlight like a precious gem. Her eyes were large and luminous, like pools of liquid gold, reflecting the twin moons with an ethereal glow. Her hair, a cascade of silvery tendrils, flowed around a face of serene beauty, adorned with delicate, almost organic markings that shimmered faintly, like bioluminescent moss etched onto her skin. She wore garments woven from what looked like phosphorescent moss, shimmering with a soft, inner light that pulsed in gentle rhythms. She carried a long, slender staff, crafted from a pale, glowing wood, topped with a larger, perfectly smooth crystal that pulsed with a similar inner luminescence. She moved with an effortless grace that spoke of deep connection to her surroundings, a fluid dance of nature. Luke, for once in his life, A man who had faced down space pirates and navigated asteroid fields with cool detachment was utterly speechless. He simply stared, mesmerized, his spear forgotten. He had encountered aliens before, of course, the various species humanity had encountered in its expansion, but none possessed this raw, otherworldly beauty. She, in turn, regarded him with an expression of gentle curiosity, her golden eyes taking in his worn clothes, the mud on his face, his crude spear, his bewildered human face. There was no fear, no hostility, only a profound, almost ancient interest. "Greetings," she said, her voice a melodic chime that resonated deep within him, not just in his ears but in the very core of his being. The language was utterly foreign, a symphony of clicks and hums, yet somehow he understood. It was as if her words bypassed his ears and spoke directly to his mind, a gentle, invasive telepathy that was more impression than direct translation. Hi," Luke managed, feeling foolish and utterly out of his depth. He cleared his throat, trying to regain some semblance of composure. "I'm Luke. My ship crashed." He gestured vaguely towards the distant, hidden wreckage of the Wanderer, a crumpled scar on the otherwise pristine landscape. A soft smile touched her lips, revealing teeth that were subtly pointed like polished pearls. "I am Lyra," she replied, the mental resonance of her name a gentle caress. "We have observed your arrival, Starwalker." Starwalker. The name felt strangely fitting, a poetic encapsulation of his existence. Over the next few days, Lyra returned to his camp. She brought him strange, delicious fruits he hadn't dared to touch, vibrant berries that burst with sweet, tangy flavors he'd never experienced, and showed him how to identify truly safe water sources, pointing out the subtle shimmer of purification in certain springs. She explained, through their unique form of telepathic communication, supplemented by gestures and shared emotional resonance, that her people, the Sylvans, were the caretakers of this world, which they called Eridor, the breathing heart. They lived in harmony with the ecosystem, their technology seamlessly integrated with nature, almost indistinguishable from it, appearing as glowing crystals or humming organic structures rather than cold metal. "We felt your ship's pain, Starwalker," Lyra explained one afternoon, her golden eyes fixed on him with an intensity that held both compassion and ancient wisdom as they sat by the stream, the sunlight filtering through the alien canopy. "Your sorrow echoed across the forest. Our elders, the voices of the canopy, sent me to you. They felt the disturbance, the rupture in the harmony." Luke found himself opening up to her in a way he hadn't to anyone in years, perhaps ever. He told her about Earth, a distant blue marble he barely remembered, about humanity's scattered empire, about his life as a lonely nomad, chasing distant stars and fleeting wonders. He spoke of the ache of never quite belonging, of the constant search for something he couldn't quite name, a void in his soul that no star system, no adventure, had ever truly filled. He found himself confessing his deepest fears, his quiet yearning for connection, the profound loneliness that had been his constant companion. Lyra listened, her presence a calming balm, a quiet anchor in the swirling chaos of his emotions. She didn't interrupt, didn't judge, simply absorbed his words with an empathetic understanding that transcended language. She shared stories of Eridor, of the ancient trees that sang to each other in a symphony of root and branch, of the luminous creatures that danced in the deep, crystalline caves, of the delicate balance of life that her people meticulously maintained, a sacred trust passed down through generations. He learned that the Sylvans were not just guardians, they were interconnected with the planet itself, their very consciousness woven into its sprawling, intricate life force. They breathed with Eridor, dreamed with Eridor. He found himself drawn to her, not just by her exotic beauty, her luminous presence, but by the profound wisdom in her golden eyes, the gentle strength of her spirit, the quiet compassion that radiated from her. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't known was possible, a quiet contentment that settled deep in his bones, chasing away the shadows of his wanderlust. He began to feel a subtle shift within himself, a slowing of his inner frantic pace, a deeper awareness of the subtle rhythms of life around him. One evening, as the twin moons cast their silver glow, painting the jungle in shades of monochrome, Lyra led him deeper into the forest. The air grew cooler, imbued with a soft, earthy scent, and the sounds of the jungle grew more hushed, more reverent. They came to a clearing where towering, bioluminescent fungi pulsed with a soft, warm light, illuminating the ground in a fantastical glow. In the center stood an enormous tree, its trunk wider than any he had ever seen, a living monolith, its bark shimmering with embedded crystals that pulsed faintly, echoing the fungi. "This is the heartwood," Lyra explained, her voice hushed, filled with reverence. "The oldest of us all, it remembers everything. The whispers of the winds, the ancient songs of the stones, the very breath of Eridor." She placed a slender, jade-colored hand on the rough, crystal-studded bark, and a faint, shimmering pattern of light spread from her touch, like ripples on a still pond, moving up the trunk. Luke felt a strange resonance, a warmth radiating from the tree, a powerful, ancient energy that hummed against his skin. He cautiously touched it himself, placing his palm gently against the rough bark. A wave of images, emotions, and memories, not his own, yet profoundly familiar, washed over him. He saw ancient forests rise and fall, felt the slow, steady pulse of geological time, experienced the quiet joy of growth and the deep sorrow of decay. He saw Lyra, a young sapling learning from her elders, her spirit vibrant and eager, curious about the world. He saw a fleeting glimpse of his own ship, a bright tearing scar across the sky, and then his own bewildered face, lying amidst the wreckage, a small, lost speck on a vast new world. The heartwood seemed to encompass everything. "It knows you, Starwalker," Lyra whispered, her hand finding his, her fingers intertwining with his rough, calloused ones. Her touch sent a jolt of something electric, yet deeply comforting through him, a connection that felt profoundly right. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and in her golden eyes he saw not just curiosity or kindness, but a nascent spark of something more, something that mirrored the growing warmth in his own chest. And in that moment, standing beneath the ancient, glowing heartwood, he realized his endless wandering had finally led him home. The universe had guided him, through storm and fire, to this single, luminous point. Weeks turned into months, and Luke's life on Eridor became less about survival and more about living. He was learning the Sylvan language, not just through their innate telepathy, which grew stronger with their bond, but through the gentle sounds they made, the nuances of their gestures, the subtle shifts in their luminous skin patterns. He learned their customs, their respectful reverence for all life, their quiet celebrations of the planet's cycles. He helped Lyra tend to the sacred groves, learning about the delicate ecosystem, the intricate web of life, the hidden currents of energy that flowed beneath the forest floor. He discovered a simple, profound joy in the rhythm of the planet, in the quiet companionship he shared with Lyra, in the feeling of purpose that had so long eluded him. He found himself sketching on his battered data pad the intricate patterns of the Sylvan architecture, the elegant lines of their tools, the complex beauty of their flora. One day, while exploring a hidden valley, a place Lyra said was rarely visited even by her people, they discovered a cave system. The entrance was overgrown, almost completely concealed by hanging vines and glowing moss, a curtain of shimmering green. Inside, the air hummed with a strange, almost electric energy, a deep thrumming that resonated in Luke's bones. Lyra had never seen it before, nor had her people ever ventured into these particular caves. They radiated an unfamiliar aura, a sensation of something ancient and powerful, yet disconnected from Eridor's natural pulse. They delved deeper, the crystal on Lyra's staff illuminating their path, casting dancing shadows on the rough crystalline walls. The deeper they went, the stronger the energy became, a prickling sensation on their skin. The walls of the cave were covered in intricate, ancient carvings, unlike anything the Sylvans had ever created. They depicted strange star maps, constellations unfamiliar to Luke, geometric patterns that pulsed with a faint, residual energy, hinting at a lost civilization or a cosmic phenomenon. The carvings weren't pictographic, but more like intricate energy schematics, pulsating with a faint, internal light. At the heart of the cave they found it, a vast circular chamber dominated by a massive, crystalline structure that hummed with a low, resonant frequency. It looked almost like a giant petrified flower, its translucent, multifaceted petals unfurling towards the high ceiling. In the center of the flower was a pulsating orb of pure sapphire light, hovering in the air, seemingly suspended by nothing. It emitted a deep, sonorous hum that vibrated through the very rock of the cave. "What is this?" Luke breathed, his voice barely a whisper, filled with a primal awe. He felt a strange pull, a familiar echo of the FTL drive he had spent so many years maintaining, a chaotic mirror of its immense power. It was raw, uncontained energy, yet it resonated with a terrifying familiarity. Lyra, however, felt something else. Her luminous eyes widened in alarm, her serene expression replaced by a look of dawning dread. "It is a source of immense power," she communicated, her mental voice a flicker of fear in her normally steady presence. "It is unnatural, untamed, not of Eridor." As they watched, fascinated and disturbed, the sapphire orb pulsed more rapidly, its light intensifying, casting sharp blue shadows that danced around the chamber. The air in the chamber grew thick and charged, crackling with static electricity, making their hair stand on end. A faint, high-pitched whine began to emanate from the crystal flower, a sound that grated on Luke's nerves, a discordant note in the planet's symphony. He instinctively reached out to touch the orb, feeling an inexplicable urge to understand it, to categorize it, to perhaps even fix it, the engineer in him overriding caution. "No, Starwalker," Lyra cried, her mental voice sharp with urgency, pulling him back with surprising strength. But it was too late. As his fingers brushed the air near the orb, a sudden surge of raw, untamed energy erupted from the crystal flower. A blinding flash filled the chamber, momentarily stealing their vision, accompanied by a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the cave, sending dust and small stones raining down. Luke was thrown backwards, hitting the rough stone floor with a sickening thud, the air knocked from his lungs. He felt Lyra's hands on him, pulling him away, shielding him with her own body, her small form surprisingly strong. When his vision cleared, the chamber was filled with swirling motes of light, and the sapphire orb was crackling with raw, unstable energy, spitting tiny bolts of lightning into the air. A massive fissure, a jagged, glowing scar had opened in the crystal flower, and from within, a shadowy, amorphous form began to coalesce, drawing power from the ruptured nexus. "An anomaly," Lyra communicated, her voice strained, tinged with a deep, ancient fear. "It is a tear, a rift, a being of pure void drawn by the untamed power." The shadowy form solidified, taking on a vaguely reptilian shape, its massive frame rippling with dark energy, its eyes glowing with malevolent red light, twin points of pure malice. It was a creature of pure energy, a being from another dimension, drawn by the immense, chaotic power of the crystal. It lashed out with shadowy tendrils, striking at the cave walls which crumbled under its touch, dissolving into dust. The air grew cold, filled with the scent of ozone and something else, something alien and terrifying. Luke, despite his fear, despite the primal terror that gripped him, felt a surge of protectiveness for Lyra. For this world he was beginning to call home, a fierce, primal instinct. "We have to stop it," he said, his voice firm, echoing strangely in the suddenly vast chamber. Lyra, however, seemed to know something he didn't. Her golden eyes were fixed on the creature, filled with a terrible certainty. "This is not of our world, Starwalker. It cannot be fought with our means. Our songs cannot soothe it. Our light cannot banish it." She looked at the sapphire orb, her golden eyes filled with a desperate understanding. "The crystal is a nexus. It has been dormant for ages. Your touch, your connection to the stars, to the chaotic energies of the void itself, it awakened it. You were the key, Starwalker, unknowingly." The creature roared, a sound that vibrated through Luke's very bones, shaking his resolve. It lunged towards them, its shadowy form consuming the light. Luke grabbed a loose chunk of rock, preparing for a futile fight, a desperate human defiance against an impossible foe, but Lyra pulled him back again, her grip surprisingly strong. "Follow me," she urged, her mental voice a command, leading him deeper into a narrow crevice, almost completely hidden in the cave wall. They squeezed through, the creature's shadowy form too large to follow, its roars echoing behind them, its tendrils scrabbling at the entrance. As they moved, Luke saw Lyra's hands glowing with a soft, green light. She was channeling the planet's energy, trying to seal the fissure, struggling against the growing, chaotic power of the anomaly, her face strained with effort. They emerged into a hidden grove, bathed in the soft, ethereal light of glowing flora, a secret sanctuary nestled deep within the earth. Lyra collapsed, her breathing ragged, her jade skin pale, the green light fatting from her hands, leaving them trembling. The rumbling from the cave system continued, growing more intense, a grinding sound that spoke of imminent destruction. "We cannot seal it entirely," she gasped, her strength failing, her mental voice weak. "It will grow, it will consume. Eridor itself will be torn apart." Luke looked at the ominous glow coming from the cave entrance, then at Lyra, so fragile yet so strong, a beacon of hope even in despair. He remembered the feeling of the heartwood, the connection to the planet. He remembered the thrill of repairing his ship, of understanding complex systems, of coaxing life back into inert machinery. He was a human, a problem solver, a fixer. He was an engineer, and this was an engineering problem, albeit one of cosmic scale. "The orb," he said, an idea forming in his mind, audacious and terrifying, but imbued with a strange, desperate logic. "It's what's feeding it, right? What if we overloaded it, sent too much power through it, like blowing a fuse on a starship?" Lyra looked at him, her golden eyes wide, a flicker of something akin to hope, but also profound fear. "That would require immense power, Starwalker, more than even the heartwood could sustain without consequence. A catastrophic feedback loop." "I have a consequence already," Luke said, his gaze firm, unwavering. He looked at the glowing flora around them, at Lyra's exhausted face. "This world, I can't let it be destroyed." He looked back at the cave entrance, where the rumbling intensified, the very ground shaking beneath them. "I know how to manipulate energy. I know how to focus it. I built an FTL drive, Lyra. I understand raw power." He remembered the FTL core, the immense power it harnessed, the delicate balance it maintained, the intricate dance of energy and containment. He could feel a similar resonance from the sapphire orb, a chaotic mirror of the drive that had brought him here, a system out of control. "We need a conduit," he explained, thinking rapidly, his mind racing with calculations and theoretical schematics. "Something to channel the planet's energy, to direct it back into the orb, to overwhelm it, like a circuit breaker but on a planetary scale." He looked around the glowing grove, his eyes falling on the ancient, crystalline plants that pulsed with their own subtle energies, their natural life force. "These, if we can connect them, amplify their power, direct it." Lyra understood. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and admiration, her sylvan understanding of nature merging with his human pragmatism. "It is a great risk, Starwalker, a great strain on Eridor. It could wound the planet deeply." "I know," Luke said, his voice determined, his jaw set. "But we have to try. There's no other way." Together they worked, a desperate, beautiful dance of two species united against a common threat. Lyra, despite her exhaustion, used her innate connection to the planet, guiding Luke to the strongest energy points in the grove, her hands glowing as she gently touched and activated the crystalline plants, coaxing them to channel their inherent energy. Luke, drawing on his engineering knowledge, his hands moving with practiced efficiency, found ways to connect the plants, to create a circuit of living energy. He used salvaged wires from his ship, his multi-tool, his sheer will, to bridge the gap between organic and technological, weaving together ancient life and advanced science. He felt the immense power of Eridor flowing through him, a raw, untamed force that threatened to tear him apart, to consume his very being. It was like holding a star in his hands, feeling its incredible, dangerous power. He could feel the planet's life force, its ancient pulse, its profound desire to protect itself, surging through the conduits they were creating. Now, Lyra cried, her voice echoing in his mind, a single urgent thought as the creature's roars grew louder from the cave, shaking the very earth. Luke focused, pouring all his will, all his newfound love for this world, for Lyra, into the conduit. He directed the torrent of energy towards the sapphire orb, imagining it as a massive power surge, a celestial overload, a cosmic short-circuit designed to silence the threat. He closed his eyes, concentrating all his being on the task. A blinding white light erupted from the cave entrance, momentarily eclipsing the glowing flora, burning away the shadows. A high-pitched shriek, unlike anything he had ever heard, a sound of pure agony and dissolution, tore through the air, vibrating the ground beneath their feet, rattling his teeth. The light intensified, peaking into an unbearable brilliance. Then, with a sound like a world shattering, like a supernova in miniature, it imploded. Silence. A profound, absolute silence descended upon the grove, deeper and more complete than any Luke had ever experienced. The rumbling stopped. The oppressive pressure in the air dissipated, replaced by a fresh, clean breeze. Luke collapsed, utterly drained, his body aching, every muscle screaming in protest, but a wave of profound relief washed over him, washing away the fear and exhaustion. Lyra was beside him instantly, her jade skin pale, but her golden eyes were filled with a light he hadn't seen before, a blend of relief, admiration, and a deep, unspoken tenderness. She gently touched his face, her hand cool against his burning skin. "You saved us, Starwalker. You saved Eridor." Her voice was soft, melodic, laced with awe and gratitude. He looked at her, at the luminous beauty of the grove, at the silent, recovering planet, already beginning to heal itself. He had found a purpose, a connection, a home. He had found something worth fighting for, something worth dying for. In the aftermath, the Sylvans welcomed Luke fully into their community. He was no longer just the Starwalker. He was Luke, the one who helped save Eridor, the one who connected with the Heartwood, the one who understood the language of both stars and roots. The cave, now stabilized and sealed, became a place of reverence, a reminder of the delicate balance of power and the unexpected strength found in collaboration, in the merging of different wisdoms. The crystalline flower was dormant once more, its sapphire heart dark, but its presence was a constant reminder of the day they faced an existential threat and emerged victorious. Luke never truly lost his longing for the stars, for the thrill of the void, for the distant shimmer of unknown galaxies, but that longing was now tempered by a deeper, more profound sense of belonging. He had found his place, not in the endless wandering, but in the quiet embrace of a single, vibrant world. His love for Lyra deepened with each passing day, a quiet, growing flame. He learned her people's ways, their songs, their silent language of the forest, the nuanced expressions of their jade faces. He taught them about the stars, about distant galaxies, about the vast and wondrous universe that humanity now inhabited, sharing his memories through their telepathic bond. He built a small, beautiful home with Lyra, nestled among the glowing trees, a blend of sylvan design and human ingenuity, a place where star maps and ancient lore coexisted in harmony. One evening, as the twin moons cast their silver glow over Eridor, painting the canopy in shimmering light, Luke and Lyra sat together on the porch of their home, watching the distant, familiar stars twinkle in the alien sky. He reached out and intertwined his fingers with hers, marveling at the contrast of his rough, human skin against her smooth, jade-colored hand, a tangible symbol of their union. "Do you ever miss it?" Lyra communicated, her golden eyes fixed on the starry expanse, her gaze thoughtful. "Your home, your people, the journey." Luke paused, considering. He thought of the vast, cold emptiness of space, the endless journey, the quiet solitude, the constant search for the next horizon. He thought of the bustling human colonies, the distant, ephemeral connections he'd made. And then he thought of Eridor, of the vibrant life around them, of the quiet strength of the heartwood, of the warmth of Lyra's hand in his, of the profound peace he felt. He took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet, earthy scent of the night. "No," he said, his voice soft but resolute, certainty ringing in every syllable. "Not anymore. I found my home, Lyra, right here, with you. This is my universe now." He looked at her, and in her luminous golden eyes he saw not just love but a reflection of his own heart, finally at peace, finally found. He was no longer a nomad adrift in the cosmic sea. He was Luke, the Starwalker who had finally found his star, the man who had found love in the vast, indifferent universe. And that, he realized, was the greatest adventure of all, a journey not across light years, but into the depths of connection and belonging.